Hello everybody, welcome to this lecture. So this lecture will be on implementation of this check if enemy on the brick and our next methods, that is couple of method here. Adjust Mario for Y enemy collision. So let's get into it first. This method, that is check if enemy on the brick, is basically it kills enemy if we bombed or we just broke that brick. So let me define it. So let me just paste it here. So this method will take a brick, that is a collider here, and I've already said it before that this check if enemy on the brick basically kills enemy if on the bombed or broken brick. So if we hit that brick and if it contains nothing rather than the enemy, then it will just kill our enemy. So for that I'll just make a brick and it should be rect Y. Let me say rect Y. If we just hit that brick, its rect Y should be 5, so decrease that Y by 5. And now let me just make another collider here, that is should be PG and sprite. So if you wonder what this collider is about, it is basically colliding with a brick. So in this case we have brick and our enemy. So this is the collider for our brick and our enemy group. So it should be enemy group here. So let's pass this, but it should be self.enemy group here, as we have self.enemy group. Now this is basically the collision between our enemy, that is our enemy group, and our brick. So we'll check if enemy. So if there is a collision, then what are you going to do? We'll just set our game score. So there should be increment in the game score. So that is just using this game info dictionary and just pass here key as an score, and we'll just increase this value with maybe 100. If we bombed that brick and if it contains enemy, just add the score, that is 100 here. And next thing is obviously we'll just make our moving score, that is append that in the moving score list you have to append our new score, that is just call this score now again, and you have to now call this class of this score module and just pass there something that is enemy rect here first. So that is getting the center x of our enemy, center x, that is our x position. And next thing what you're gonna have to just subtract our viewport. So in order to get viewport we have to just call this self.viewport and x. So this is basically our x position where you want to just set that moving score list, and second would be our y. So y will be obviously our enemy position, that is get this enemy rect and y. And next will be score. So what you want to add this score, so it is obviously 100 because every time you hit that bricks and if it contains basically our enemy, then you get rewarded with 100 score. So we have now our moving score list, and next thing what you're gonna do after that, we'll just kill that enemy. So you say that enemy dot kill here, that is just remove my enemy from the gameplay and just add that enemy to sprite about to die group. So this is basically a list, and in that list you just have to add now this enemy. And next thing is just you want to check now, that is the center x position. So let's do here. So that should be like we have to now check here. Let me say it should be after we add an enemy, and maybe here we'll just say this is basically for the enemy start death. So if you hit that right or left, that is basically action. So we'll just check for the action here, that is if the Mario rect x, that is we are just extracting this center x position of the Mario from the rect, and if it is greater than brick, and that is rect center x, if it is greater, that means we have now priority, higher priority for our Mario. That means this enemy start death jump. What our function, that is if you see here we have something that is start death jump function in this enemy module, which will kill basically for our enemy based on our action. So action here could be right, and else if it is lesser, that means we have now priority for the brick. So if the brick center x is greater, then the enemy should also be killed, but by the next action, that is left action. So that should be like start, death, jump, and the action here. So let me just pass parenthesis because it is a function that is maintained in this enemy module, and that is basically this action, and this action should be now left. So we have now killed our enemy, and let me just add this rect back to our brick. That means you should just put in here, that is here, this position brick, and that should be rect x. So let me, this is basically roll backing the position for our brick, that is basically height. So get height 5 here, because we have just removed that 5 or basically subtracted at the beginning, and we'll just roll back 5 again after we make our enemy to kill. So this is basically our check if enemy on the bricks or not. So next function that we have to implement here is going to be, let me say, okay, we have completed all of ours, so there should be some. So it should be here, adjust Mario for y enemy collision, and next one will be test if Mario is falling, and then we'll just run our game. So to implement that, I'll just come here, down here, and define this function, that is adjust Mario for y enemy collision. So this adjust Mario for y enemy collision is basically checking the Mario collision with all enemy in the y axis. So in order to do that, we just need enemy collider. Basically this is the enemy collider, and if you wonder what we passed here, so you can go back here and see here, that is we have something that is here, it is adjust Mario for y enemy collision, and it is taking our enemy. That means here enemy is collision between our Mario and enemy. So let's handle this. So in order to handle, we have to now check for the velocity of our Mario. That is, I'll say Mario velocity, but it should be y, because we are just dealing with the y here. So if it is greater than O, what you're gonna do here is, we have just killed our enemy basically. So what you're gonna do is, we'll just add the score. So what you're gonna do is, to get the score, we'll just call this game info dictionary and just give a score. Here is a from this constant, and just add 100. Each time you just kill that enemy, you have to add 100 score. And next thing is, we have to again create this moving score list. So let me just copy this, all of these, it will be exactly the same. So let me just copy all of these and paste it out here, and you can see we have now score calling, that is score class from this score module, and you have to pass this same parameter, that is this position for the x, and we have this enemy rect y, that's a position for the y, and 100 scores should be added every time you hit that, or you make that enemy to be killed, or basically if the enemy has died. So next thing will be, I'll make, that is basically this is obviously checking if our Mario is basically on the jumped state or not. So I'll make this state should be jumped now. So basically this is to make that, this is to say that is our Mario has jumped on this enemy. So after that, what are you gonna do? Obviously kill that enemy from our gameplay. So now it's time to check for the enemy. So if our enemy name is equal Goomba, so if you wonder what this Goomba was basically, so Goomba was something that if you go in this sprite sheet, and if you see here SMB enemy sheet, and something like this was basically Goomba. If I zoom here, so this is basically our Goomba. So let's go back here, and now what you're gonna do here is, we'll just set now our enemy death timer, that is from this enemy we have something that is death timer to be the current timer. So enemy has died in this current time, that should be self.current time, and we have to add this enemy sprite, that is Goomba sprite, in our sprite about to die group list. So just add it here, and that should be our Goomba. So in this case we have something that is enemy, so this enemy should be added. So let me just put here enemy, and we have now this adjust Mario for enemy collisions. So next thing what we're gonna do here is we'll just set this Mario.rect and bottom here, bottom of our Mario to be enemy rect, because this is basically saying that we now have this jump position. So if you just visualize it, what am I going to say here is similar to this jump. So let's say here top. So that means this top of the enemy should be now Mario rect bottom. That means we have just jump. So state here should be jump, obviously. This Mario dot state. So let's make this state to be C dot jump state. And now next thing what we're gonna do is we'll just decrease the velocity of our Mario in Y, that is through this Y well to be -7. So just make this -7. Now we have just completed this adjust Mario for Y collision, Y enemy collision 2. Now the last and the final function that we left is testing if the Mario is falling. So let's do that real quick. So let me just copy this and come back here and define it here. That is define, that should be just paste it out here, and here should be checking if the Mario is falling. So what this basically test if Mario is falling function is going to do for us, it changes Mario to a fall state if more than a pixel above it pipe, ground or step or a box. That means the Mario should be changed to the fallen state. Basically what it's going to do, let me just show you real quick, is if you go in this basically item objects, we have something maybe not in, so we have pipe in somewhere here. So we have something that is a pipe here. So let me go here real quick, and what you're gonna do is this is a pipe basically. And in this pipe, if you just hit here pipe, and if you just collide with the pipe, basically if you just collide with the pipe, and if you just with this collision, if you just move or just press A to jump, then there should be the fallen state, because you should not be allowed with this collision with the pipe and jump basically just from here. So that means let me just show you real quick here. So if this was the pipe, and if you just collide with this pipe, so if you just stick to this pipe and just try to jump, then there should be, that is the fallen state. There should not be jump state, rather there should be the fallen state. So this is basically checking in this level, that is test if Mario is falling. So for that we'll say that is self.mario and rect dot y, and it should be equal to 1. So just increase that rect of y, basically as you can say the height of y, and we should have here new variable to create, that is test collide group. So this is the variable, and this is the variable that is basically a group. So in order to create group, you have to call this function of our sprite and pass a bunch of our argument here, and that would be our ground state. First is our ground, let me say ground step pipe group here. So ground step pipe group. So this is basically our pipe and ground step, and our brick. Now it's time to add our brick group, and the next will be coin box group. So coin group. So this is basically our text collide group, new group that we just created, and now it's time to check for the basically, let me say, if there is a collision. So instead of just making another variable, I'll just check in this if condition, that is sprite collide any. If there is collision between our Mario, that is our Mario, and with this test collide group, if there is any collision, and if it is none, basically this means if there is no collision. This all statement was true if there is any collision, and this is none basically means if there is no collision. That means what you're gonna do, again you'll check our Mario state. So in this basically test if Mario is falling, we'll just implement that fall state. So in order to see that, we have to now first call this the Mario and the state. So if it is not equal to something that is jump, so it should not be jump state. And then what you're gonna do here is basically we'll also check for this bunch of this state. So let me say and self dot, again let me just copy it, it would be rather easy. So let me just copy it and just paste it out here. That is, if our Mario state is not equal to maybe death jump, and let me just copy it again, if the Mario state is not again changing from small to big, and again we'll just say that is if our Mario, let me and here, and if our Mario is again not changing from big to small, so big to small, it should be small. And again what you're gonna do is, and if our Mario is not walking to the castle, that means if it is not end, so if our game is not end, so let me just copy it, paste it here, and if it is not basically walking to our castle, so in that case what are you gonna do? So we have to implement that is the statement that will show this Mario state should be now fall state. That is, this Mario dot state should be now equal to C dot fall state. So this will be the case. Now else if, now what do you do in this part is if the Mario state, Mario dot state is equal, so if it is walking to castle, basically this means if the game is nearly end, and let me say here or let me just say something that is, we have now, let me say here self dot Mario, and here the state is maybe end of the level, so let me say C dot end of the level fall, we have end of the level fall. Then what are you gonna do? So you'll just make our Mario state, that is just make our Mario state that is end state, that means just make here C dot end of the level fall. So this is basically saying that if it is walking to castle, then we have now game over. So next thing will be just come back here and make this increment or decrement, so it should be constant or decrement in Mario rect y, and just unit decrement here. So we have implemented this now, this test if Mario is falling, and this is the condition to check, and if it is true, then what you're gonna do is we'll just set this Mario state to be falling state. So now let's test our game going in this, basically you should implement or you should run. Now it's time to run our game. So in order to run our game, you should not be running from this state, you should not go in this level1.py and just run it out, because this is not our main. So the function or all the methods should be called from the main. So go outside this data and go in this level 1 here, and this, if you see here, we have this main calling in this name equal to main, and it should be now run. So let's click here in the run button and just run it, and just select this level 1 to run. So let's select that. Now you can see that our game is open and running. So let me just move it out and just jump with A, so you can press A here, and if you see here, this was basically our info. So if you come here, that is in this basically in your data, and in this info we have something that is text images, and we have created this world time 1 and 1. So this all was basically this our 1 and 1 world 1 and 1 in our time, which should be regularly decreased with our current time. And let's now go here, and you can see our Goombas here. So let's jump in that, and okay, we have just died, and you can see when you die you can get this again, and you should multiply with 2, so you get 3 chance in order to play. So let me just go here and just hit that. So let's hit that button here, so it is coin, and you get 200 when you hit that coin. So let's go here and see, you can see the mushroom, so it is just moving with the velocity, and when you eat that, you can see our increment in our size. when I just hit this brick, what is going to happen? It is nothing because it don't have any content. That means it don't have coin even, and it also don't contain any enemy. So that was the case. So if it's hit here too, it has no content. So let's go down here and jump it now again, and if you just hit that Goomba, so what we have in the, when you hit that Goomba, we should obviously get that, obviously we should have implemented that to get something that is score. So when you just hit that, and maybe it should be 100 to 200 score. So let me just hit that. Okay, when you hit that, so it's, you can see that you get 100, but when you just collide with this enemy, and you can see we have just changed in a state here. That means you have fallen from this big to small state now. So that was basically implementing big to small state. So you can just, and this was the important part. When you see here, that is when you just collide with the what you say here, pipe, and when you just jump here, so you are not getting that elevation, proper elevation, rather you're just falling here. So basically this was the method that we implemented here at the last. That is, if you see here, that should be in this level 1, and not in level 1, it should be somewhere in this state level 1. So if you go down here, you can see that we implemented the test if the Mario is falling here. So this was the case. When you just collide, then you are not getting a proper elevation. So if you go from here, then you are getting the proper elevation. So next, let me just collide with this one, and you can see each 100 score is added to our Mario here. So this will be our game, and it is the end of the Mario section. And the next thing I want to mention here is you can also implement, that is the menu screen here, and I will not be doing that because this lecture has been already a long, and you can just implement. But in the code section we have something that is with this menu, so you can get that code and refer it. So let's get the end of this section. See here what we can go, and we have just died. So this will be the end. See you in the next, and enjoy the game.